Something strange is happening in the U.S. economy, but no one wants to talk about it. Have you noticed that your money doesn't last as long as it used to? That the cost of living has skyrocketed while your salary has remained almost the same? The truth is, the United States is facing a silent crisis, and while politicians pretend everything is fine, the working class is being crushed. But hold on, because this story has two sides, and there might even be an unexpected solution. In recent years, the government has buried the country in debt, prices have spiraled out of control, and good-paying jobs are becoming harder to find. Meanwhile, economies like China and India are growing at full speed, and the U.S., once the epicenter of global wealth, is losing ground. But what does this mean for you? Simple. Your purchasing power within the country has never been weaker. But outside the U.S., the story is completely different. What if I told you that while living in the U.S. has become more expensive than ever, there are places in the world where the dollar is stronger than ever? That with the cost of a cramped rental in the U.S., you could live beachfront in a paradise destination? It sounds crazy, but it's not. Today, we're going to break down what's really happening with the U.S. economy and how you can turn the tide in your favor. The American economy is facing a gigantic problem, but few are willing to face the truth. Debt has become a bottomless pit. The government owes more than $34 trillion, an amount so absurd that if every American had to pay an equal share, they would each owe over $100,000. But it doesn't stop there. Companies are also drowning in unpayable debt, and families are increasingly relying on credit cards to cover basic expenses. The result? An economy artificially sustained by loans that, sooner or later, will have to be repaid. And when that day comes, it will be a brutal shock. If you feel like your money is disappearing faster than before, it's not just your imagination. Rent has increased, grocery prices have skyrocketed, and that coffee that used to cost $3 is now hitting $6. The problem? Your salary hasn't kept up with this surge. In recent years, the cost of housing, food, and healthcare has risen at absurd rates, while wage increases have lagged far behind. Meanwhile, large corporations and banks continue to profit from excessive fees and interest rates. The middle class, once the backbone of the country, is now struggling to survive, while the wealthiest continue multiplying their fortunes. Another major problem is that while the U.S. is sinking, China and India are growing at a rapid pace, gaining more ground in the global market. China, for example, is heavily investing in infrastructure and innovation, while the U.S. is still struggling with basic issues like crumbling roads and train systems that seem stuck in the 1950s. Beijing is building factories, developing cutting-edge technology, and expanding its global influence, while Washington prints money to cover budget deficits. India is also standing out, becoming one of the world's main technology and manufacturing hubs. The game is changing, and the U.S. is no longer the sole protagonist of the global economy. American politics has turned into a game of empty promises and theatrical disputes. Both Republicans and Democrats spend more time fighting each other than solving real problems that affect ordinary citizens. Voters are tired of scripted speeches and reforms that never materialize. As the economy deteriorates, Washington's responses follow the same pattern: more taxes, more debt, and more excuses. The problem is, this strategy no longer convinces anyone. The average American realizes their money is worth less, their quality of life has declined, and no one in power seems willing to reverse this trend. This growing dissatisfaction has paved the way for political figures who break the traditional mold. Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders are two examples, politicians at opposite ends of the ideological spectrum, yet they have attracted millions of supporters precisely because they represent an alternative to the failed system. Trump capitalized on the frustration of the working-class white population, who saw their jobs being outsourced and their financial security crumbling. Sanders, on the other hand, brought a progressive agenda focused on reducing inequality and reforming the economic system. What do they have in common? They understood that the average voter is fed up with conventional politics. The biggest problem is that even when outsiders reach power, they run into a system that makes real change difficult. Trump promised to rebuild the middle class and bring jobs back, but by the end of his term, inequality had only increased. Biden, in turn, promised to unite the country and strengthen the economy, but his administration has been marked by inflation and global instability. The truth is, neither party has a concrete plan to prevent the financial collapse of the country. They are merely managing the crisis while trying to remain in power. But how much longer will this last? The American working class is being crushed by a system that seems designed to keep them one step behind. Stagnant wages, soaring living costs, and reduced benefits have created a reality where millions of people work more, earn less, and still go into debt just to survive. The idea of the American dream, where hard work and dedication guaranteed prosperity, has become unattainable for most of the population. The result? Families living paycheck to paycheck, with no financial cushion for emergencies, while the ultra-rich continue accumulating record-breaking wealth. Do you feel richer today than you did 5 years ago? Or do you feel like you're working more, earning less, and having less time to enjoy life? Inflation continues to erode workers' purchasing power, and the cost of living keeps rising. A worker earning $50,000 a year a decade ago could live comfortably. Today, with the same $50,000, they can barely cover the basics. Meanwhile, multinational corporations report billion-dollar profits, and executives secure massive bonuses. The contrast between the rich and the poor has never been so striking. But signs of change are emerging. In recent years, workers at Amazon, Starbucks, and even the automotive sector have started mobilizing again. In a country where union culture seemed dead, protests, strikes, and collective bargaining are making a comeback. The case of Amazon is a great example. Warehouse workers, who endure extremely harsh conditions, have begun challenging the retail giant and achieving small victories. These are just the first steps, but the mere fact that these movements are growing shows that the patience of the working class is wearing thin. But what if I told you that while the cost of living in the US is crushing workers, there are places in the world where the dollar has never been stronger? Maybe the problem isn't how much you earn, but rather where you are spending it. While the American economy faces an internal storm, the dollar has never been so powerful in many parts of the world. Countries like Brazil, Argentina, Mexico, and even some destinations in Europe and Asia have become true paradises for those earning in dollars. This means that for those who are paying attention to opportunities, there are smart ways to navigate the crisis and enjoy a better quality of life while spending less. A perfect example is Brazil. The real has been devalued against the dollar for years, making incredible cities like Rio de Janeiro, Florianopolis, and Salvador extremely affordable for Americans. Imagine this: for the price of a tight rental in New York or Los Angeles, you could rent a beachfront home in Brazil's paradise-like beaches. And we're not talking about just any beach. Some of them are ranked among the most beautiful in the world, like Fernando de Noronha and Jericoacoara. If the cost of living in the US has become unsustainable, why not turn this problem into an advantage? The US economy may be going through a difficult period, but that doesn't mean there aren't opportunities. Globalization has opened new doors, and a strong dollar abroad can be a lifeline for those who know how to take advantage of it. The big question now is the average American ready to step out of the bubble and realize that the world outside might offer a better quality of life than what they have inside their own country? The truth is harsh, but ignoring it won't solve the problem. The US economy has changed, and pretending everything is fine will only leave you further behind. The cost of living is crushing the working class, politicians are failing to offer real solutions, and inequality is reaching unprecedented levels. Now that you understand what's really happening, the question is, what will you do with this information? Will you continue watching your purchasing power disappear without taking action? Or will you seek alternatives to protect your money, find new opportunities, and even explore what the world has to offer? Because whether you like it or not, the game has already changed, and those who don't adapt will lose badly. So, I want to know, which of these economic shifts has impacted you the most? What do you think you can do to stay ahead? Drop a comment below, because your opinion matters. And to help you even further, I've left a pinned comment with a list of 5 essential books that will help you understand the economy, safeguard your money, and uncover new opportunities in this landscape. These are bestsellers with top reviews that could make a huge difference in how you view the future. Check them out. And of course, if you want to keep learning about the economy and making smarter financial decisions, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way, you'll never miss a video and will always stay one step ahead. See you in the next one.